All right, moving on to our featured speaker, we have the Tri-State Regional Director and a great guy, Chris Stevens, who also knows a lot about money and the path of money because he is absolutely loaded, probably the richest guy in the region, and he's going to talk about how he got so rich.
Oh, you're so funny, Al. Not as rich as you. I'm aspiring to be you, buddy. I am disappointed though. We got 56 people on the call. I thought, you're Al Donahue. I thought you'd have 300 to 400 people on here.
Yeah, I know that's what I said at the beginning. It's people are getting sick of me, so we're trying to figure out how to ramp this back up. So don't take it personally.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. I hope everyone's well. Um, this is a class that I officially started actually last month, and it's a combination of my life experiences, stuff I've learned from Gary, from Jason, Brett Tanner, and a bunch of other investors that I work with. Um, I really just thought that this is something that I feel that we all need. I did a class in Queens last week, and man, was I right. There were so many agents that were just the kind of look on their face was like, "Oh my God, I should be doing that or I should be doing this," right? And it's okay. Um, and this class usually is a little over 2 hours, but I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version in about, what do I have, about 45 minutes,
Yep.
Al?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to start here because it always starts here. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you is through my eyes and through my life experiences. Full disclaimer, I am not an attorney. I'm not a CPA, and I'm not an FA or a financial advisor or financial planner, right? So what I'll be talking about here are things that I coach to, things that I do myself, and it's merely just my experiences. So I had to get that caveat out of the way. But it does start for me in the morning, and it does start with a mindset. And you kind of have to decide on, and we'll talk about health real quick, because I do believe that your health and your wealth are the same thing, right? There is a model for that, and for your health and for your wealth, and it's also how are you going to take care of yourself? For me, it's I'll give you a quick look into how my morning starts. I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm not saying that everyone has to get up at 4:30 in the morning. It's just what I do. Um, I'm usually at the gym by 5 a.m. at the latest. And then I come back, I do journaling, I do sauna, I do some reading, and I do some meditation. This kind of gets my mind right. Usually by 7:30, like I'm ready. Like I am so ready for the day. Usually by 12 o'clock, my 20% is done, right? Three-quarters of my day is done by 12, and then during the afternoon I set up for meetings and stuff like that. So that's just kind of how I set up my morning. Um, but I do spend an hour, at least an hour a day on my wealth, whether it be looking for investment properties, looking for businesses, looking at my financials, my balance sheets, my market centers and stuff like that, right? And I really feel the best way to convey this to you is to kind of go through a chart with you guys with your permission. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you guys this chart so you guys all have it. I do have a PowerPoint that's for 2 hours. I'm not going to use it for today. I think what I'm going to do right now will add more value for you guys, and I certainly want to make the most out of your time. But most of us are all real estate agents on this call, yes? So,
Yep.
number one, we sell homes to make cash, right? That's how, for the most part, that's how we make a living, right? There's three ways that we can make money. That's number one. Number two is if you get successful enough, you start a team and you get leverage, whether that be through admins, transaction coordinators, the use of leverage services in the market center or whatever, right? And then number three is you're an investor, right? You buy and sell homes as an investor, whether you flip them or short term or long term rentals, or you buy a business, right? Those are three ways that we bring in money. And here is the best way that I know to show you guys on how I look at the path of money. I'm going to turn this so you guys can see this. And if you can't see it, I'll explain it to you. But the first thing is I'm going to draw for you guys. One box up here. I'm not an artist, full disclaimer. So if you can't read anything, and I'm also have doctor's handwriting, so please unmute yourself and ask. We're going to call this your wealth chest, right? And then we're going to have another box down here. And we're going to call this your consumption bucket.
Can everybody see that? If you can't see it, you can within Zoom put it on speaker view if it's not already on speaker view so you can see.
There you go. Everyone see that? Good. And then over here, this is your safe bucket. And then what we have up here are taxes. And we're going to talk a little bit about taxes in a little bit. I mean, this isn't done, but it's pretty much almost done, right? This is how I look at it. I'm going to explain to you. For this illustration, we're going to assume in our consumption bucket that our expenses every month, meaning rent or mortgage, utilities, if you have a car payment, whatever it is, right? Let's assume that your monthly expenses, let's just say 10,000. All right. Your expenses are 10 grand. Your safe bucket, and I like 6 times in reserves for our household. Anywhere from 3 to 6 months is recommended. I just happen to I'm comfortable with 6 months worth of reserves, right? So 6 times 10 is 60. Are we good so far? That makes sense to everyone, right? These are your monthly expenses. This is what you're going to have in reserves. All right. And then what we're going to do is these are going to be all the ways that you make a living or make your money, right? And I'll use some of my examples on here, right? Some people will have 2 or 3 rectangles. Some people will have 20. Gary Keller has probably 400. But so number one, let's just, my regional role is a W-2, right? My second one is I get commissions, right? Because I don't have a real estate team anymore, but I do refer all my business to a few people that I work with very closely. So I do get commissions on my clients. Third one is, let's say, market center, number 1, market center, number 2, right? And then we're going to do syndications. And then we go to ancillary. I have title companies and insurance. And then we go down to, I'll just put investment properties. I don't have enough right then, but you get what I'm going. All right. So these are going to be all the ways that you bring income into your life, right? And what happens is, whether it's every week, bi-weekly, monthly, biannually, or annually, right? Doesn't matter. This money is going to go into your wealth chest, right? That's money flowing into your life. And what happens is, when you're going to fill this funnel right here, right? This is going to be open. And what happens is you're going to fill that bucket with 10 grand, right? And as soon as that fills with 10 grand, you're now going to open up this one. And that money is going to start to fill the reserves, right? You don't do anything else with the money until your reserves are filled, right? That means don't go buy Mercedes, BMW when you get your commission check, right? Don't do any of that stuff, right? Once this bucket is filled, the money that's left over in here, right, starts to fill up, right? This funnel closes. You don't ever look at that again If you get a bright idea that you want to go and open up a restaurant, don't do it, right? Just keep that money there. It's in case of emergency. If you, for some reason, if you do have to use it, let's say you want to take 20 grand out of that, we just repeat the process, right? Until you fill that bucket back up, right? Make sense, everyone, so far? Good. So now, here, here is where a lot of people get a lot of stress because first of all, no offense to anybody on this call, a lot of real estate agents don't do budgets, whether it be for their household or whether it be for their business. And it's something that I had to get really good at and intentional about. And what I'll tell you is in my 20s, I owned 4 restaurants. I was in the restaurant business for 20 years. Um, I was what I thought was rich and also certainly poor during my 20s and my 30s at any given time. So I have some great stories, and I also have some stories that will make you feel a lot better about yourself. If anybody's been in the restaurant business, you know what I'm talking about. But what I'll tell you is typically restaurants are not a good investment. I did pretty well with it, all things being told, but once this is full, right, you're going to get anxiety about this because should I go buy that cup of Starbucks coffee? Should I go buy new clothes? And what I'll tell you is you work hard, you deserve it. As long as you have a budget and you're allowing for a certain amount of money, whether it be for clothes, for coffee, for entertainment, for whatever, you're good. I hear people saying, you know, don't go out and spend $20 a week on Starbucks. You can put that into an Acorn account or whatever, right? I'm telling you that it's okay. You work hard, you deserve it. As long as you're budgeted and you're allowing for it, you're good, right? So what happens next? You're paying your bills, you're good, your reserves are full, and now you got income coming into your wealth chest, right? Let me turn this, and we'll go back to this. Here's how, whenever I look at an investment opportunity, this is what I do. Number one, what's my avatar? Meaning, what kind of investment do I want to do? Right? 2, location. Is it in a desirable location or a location that works for me? 3, business plan. And I will tell you, I'll put a star next to this one because most people don't do the front end work to see whether the opportunity is viable or not. Does it cash flow? Does it not? Really, really important. Number 4, deal flow. And what all deal flow means is how many of the type of business opportunities do I want in the location that I desire that supports the business plan that I've created. That's what deal flow is, right? And anytime I look at an opportunity, whether it be a car wash, a market center, an ancillary service, an investment property, no matter what it is, these are the 4 things that I always lean back on that are really, really important. It's something that without fail, this is something that I always hang my hat on. And the other thing too is as you know, we get older, like Al, what happens is you don't want as much noise in your life anymore, right? And another thing that I do on a scale of 1 to 10 is profit, decibel, or noise. Here's what I mean by this. If I'm going to look at an opportunity, I'm going to look at these 2. Actually, I'm going to look at this first because number 1, I may want, let's just say I'm going to buy let's just use a restaurant. Let's just say I'm going to buy a very successful franchise restaurant. That's profitable. It may be a 10 on profitability, but it's probably going to be a 9 or 10 on noise, right? It's not something I want in my life. For me right now is how much passive income can I possibly make while I'm sleeping, right? That I don't actually have to be there for or work for. Meaning work for, like physically be there for, right? And what I've created and what I do create are business opportunities that are not only good for me and my family, but also good for other people that are around me, right? Because that's what growth is all about. But I don't have to have a lot of noise in my life. For me, I want a 3 or a 4 on the noise level. I'm very active with my children. I have a lot of responsibilities, but for me, I just don't want a lot of noise anymore. It's one of the reasons that I got out of sales and real estate and he decided to become, a business owner and investor. Was This is by design, right? This is not by default. So this is a choice. I don't want to, I'm okay. I'm okay being at a 4 or a 5 on profitability, right? I'm willing to sacrifice some profitability to have less noise in my life. You guys have to figure out, where are you as an investor or business owner in your life? If you're in your 20s, you may be like, hey, I want to burn the candle at both ends and I want to be a 10 on profitability and I want a 10 on noise. Cool, awesome, right? But everyone has a different situation. These are two metrics that I look at all the time whenever I look at an opportunity. Is number one, what kind of opportunity do I want? Where's the location going to be? Do I have a sound business plan, right? And then what's my deal flow? And then the second part of it is, how profitable is it and how much noise is it going to make in my life? For me, as long as it cash flows, I'm good with it, right? Depending on what it is, but I don't own anything that does not cash flow, even if it's $1. It's just, I won't buy anything unless it cash flows. I have a bunch of books that I will give you guys in the end that I've read and am reading, and some podcasts that I also listen to a lot that I'll share with you guys as well. What I will tell you is, for 2025, I read a lot. I kind of got away from that a little bit in 2024 because there was a lot of noise in my life, right? The market and taking over the regional director role, and there's a lot of stuff that was going on. But I made it a conservative effort for 2025 doing my business planning, was to limit myself to 2 hours a week on the TV, and then read at least one book a month, if not more. And I actually started that yesterday because I don't want to wait until January 1st. So I would implore you guys to look at what your goals are going to be for 2025. Make sure that you have a detailed plan, whether it be for your health and your wealth, but not only that, just to educate yourself, right? We always have to be learning based and always learning. And I think that if you see a lot of successful, wealthy people, they don't watch a lot of TV, they read a lot of books. They're around people that they want to aspire to be or they want to learn from. And I try to put myself in a situation or in a circle of people that I'm always learning from, right? You guys have always heard, don't be the smartest person in the room. And
Are you saying people that are wealthy and successful, they don't watch a lot of TV, they spend more time on TikTok and Instagram? Is that what they do, the extra
exactly.
time?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Al, you got it. You nailed it. Thank you.
Awesome.
So going back to this. So once we get to here, right? Now we know that we know our model, right? We know the avatar, we know the location, we know the business plan, right? We know the deal flow. And so whenever an opportunity comes up, I'll look at all that stuff. And let's say you need 20 grand for a down payment on a house, right? And you wait until that wealth chest builds up, that 20 grand. Here's where a lot of people mess up. They'll save the money, then they don't know what to do with it, right? They'll have the money there. It's like, well, where do I invest the money? Do I put it into a short-term rental, an Airbnb? Do I do a long-term rental? Do I flip? What do I do? Do I buy a business? What do I do? And what I've seen and people that I coach to is they just don't know where to invest the money. It's either that or they make a lot of money and they keep very little of it. And I've seen a lot of that with real estate agents where they're making a lot of money and they think they're rich or they may be rich, but they're not wealthy because they're spending a lot of money, right? And we certainly don't want to get into that habit at all. So the goal is to keep your wealth chest full all the time, right? And what kind of investments, are we going to do? And I think that for you guys, especially for 2025, is really have a good wealth plan on what you're going to do. Because I'm going to kind of go into taxes in a little bit. And I think it's really important to be clear about your vision and where you want to be. Like for me, one of the things for 2025 is I want to pay off 2 of my properties, right? And it doesn't matter what it is, but you got to have a plan, right? And you got to create the habit in order to get there. And you can't do all this, and you can't do kind of what Al's done, and it's not luck, unless you have the grit and you have the planning in order to do it and the habits to create not just the wealth for yourself, but also the opportunities for other people. That's probably more important to me than anything is being able to do this, but being able to create more opportunities for everyone else.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a question? And maybe you'll get into this.
Yeah,
I was always one of those people who was terrible with money. I would make a lot of money, but I would spend a lot of money. One thing, or I invested it, but as soon as I made money on investment, I'd spend it. So what someone showed me a few years ago, somebody at KW, was to create an account that all of the income from investments went into and just never touch that account, if that makes sense. So, just have an account. So like, my profit share from KW goes in there, any, dividends from investments. And I just never touch that. Like I can touch the other stuff, but that just kind of keeps growing and growing. And I, even keep that at a different bank and just kind of leave that alone and let that just grow. And that's the one thing that worked for me because I try to like pretend I don't even have that money. And it forced me, do you do something like that? And then my other question is, I think if I was somebody who's just getting into real estate or, in my 20s, which a lot of the people on this call are, and you're talking about, paying off your properties and all that, I'm thinking, well, how do I get to the point? Like, what do I do if I don't have this money to do this? Like, how does somebody get started investing when they don't have 60, like, do they not invest at all until they have the 60,000 in the bank, or can they start investing a little bit or?
yeah. Great, 2 great questions. Let me answer your first one. So yes, the answer is yes. So I'll give you an example. My investment properties each have their own account, have their own balance sheet, cash flow statement, and I know exactly what each one of them cash flows like every month, right? That goes into there. I have profit share, to your point. I have a separate account for my profit share that it just stays in there. Like I don't even look at it, and it just collects. Another one, Al, which is really good. I was at a wealth seminar in 2000, I think it was 18 or 19 with KW. I think it was at Family Reunion. Someone talked about acorns. And I'm just pulling it up now. So I was like, So I set up an account while I was there. I was like, I heard of it, didn't know much about it. And essentially what I do since then, and I'll tell you exactly what I have in it right now, is I have a few credit cards that I pay off every month. By the way, I pay off every month. I connect those to my Acorn account and it rounds it up. And you can set how much you want to round up to. So example, if it's $10.01, you could round it up to $10.50 or $11. You can control that. And then I add in $100 into the investment vehicle that it's attached to it. So since 2000, let me see. This is 2019. So I have $32,383.64 on here right now, right? And that is just from rounding up my my check card that's tied to my bank, and then my 2 other credit cards, and then the $100 I've been putting in every week, right? That doesn't get touched. Don't touch it, and it'll stay there. It'll tell me too, real quick, that it'll give you like potential, and obviously some of this is tied to the market. When I want to say 93. I hope I lived in 93. Let's say when I'm 60 years old, it says I will have $127,905, just to give you an idea, right? If things stay the way they are.
Make all that money in the next year?
Yeah, you're funny. I'm not as old as you, Al. So my commissions that come in, that goes into another account. So to answer your question, yes, Al, I think it's a great idea, especially your taxes. You should be paying, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the taxes, I always say estimated taxes you pay quarterly. This way you don't get in trouble. And you should have a separate account for your taxes. You get your commission check, 35% of that. I always say 35, right? If you're set up correctly, you'll never spend 35% on taxes, but 35 is a really good safe number. And then the second part to your second question, Al, what was if someone doesn't have a lot of money to invest, what do they do?
Yeah,
Is
if
that
they're
it?
like newer, because some of the stuff you're talking about is high level stuff, which there are some high level people here, but I wouldn't want to discourage newer people. Like, what can they do? Like, if I was looking at this going, if I can't start investing until I have 60 grand in the bank, like that's going to be 5 years from now. Like that, like I want to
Here,
start investing a little bit and get my feet wet.
here's what I would do. You first of all make sure you have a budget, um, and then figure out do that model I showed you, right? The avatar, the location. If you want to buy investment property, let's just say you want to buy investment, you have a location, you know exactly what you want to do, and let's say you got to save 20 grand and you have no money saved right now. What I would do is number one, look at your expenses to reduce them because you want to get there as fast as possible, right? Number two is, hey, maybe you pick up a side job, right, to make more money so you can get there faster, right? But assuming that you're just, you're not just, but you're a real estate agent making commission, what I would do is get a high yield savings account, and then I would take the extra money that I have and put it into the high yield savings account until I get that 20 grand, right? And then that's how I would purchase my first property. If you own your own residence, your primary, I would not borrow against that or do a HELOC to buy an investment property. Not a good strategy. I don't recommend it.
The strategy of I like that noise level thing that you showed. What about somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, finding an investment that's high on the noise level and partnering with somebody like you who, is already established, who will maybe pay, put up a little more money for them to deal with the noise. Like, if you go in an investment property and it needs maintenance and all this other stuff, maybe you do that work, and you put in less money, but you get it in, you show your value in sweat equity and you become the manager of the property and all of that.
I mean, I did that for two properties years ago. I was the sweat equity person, and I became a partner with it, right? So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great way to do it without having to save the money for it. Great stuff. Taxes. Hey, does anybody have questions?
We will never get Chris back if you don't ask him a question.
I have a quick question. Why did you say you don't recommend doing the HELOC to buy investment property?
You broke up. I couldn't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
I can hear him clear, but you're freezing up a little bit.
It might be. It might be on my end. I can hear you now.
Okay,
Sorry about
I
that.
think it's better now. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I sure can, dude.
I was thinking about doing some investment into Airbnbs, and I thought about doing the HELOC on one of my investment properties that I have equity in. And why do you recommend against that?
No, primary.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
because God forbid something happens and you don't want anything to happen to your primary home, right? Where you live.
Gotcha.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely. So taxes. I do everything humanly possible not to pay federal taxes. And here's some really good advice I'm going to give you guys that was given to me. There's a big difference between having a CPA and a tax advisor or a tax attorney. And I'll tell you what I do. Once a month, I have a meeting with my tax attorney and I go through, I just finalized an investment. So my wife's going to kill me because she's not as risk adverse as I am. And she likes to see the money in the account, not see it go down. But I went to my tax attorney and said, listen, I have another company I set up. and where can I get some more tax savings through this investment? What I'll tell you is, if you go to your CPA is like no offense to CPAs. I mean, I have a great CPA. Is they're basically transaction coordinators, right? They're there to do your returns, try to save you some money, and done. But what I'll tell you is it's your money. If you took this 35% that's right here, and let's just say you could get that down to 20 or 15% through some utilizing tax code and tax laws to your advantage. I mean, that would be something you want to do, right? Your CPA is probably not gonna know all the ins and the outs as well as your tax attorney does. And so I buy an hour every month with my tax attorney, and I take this, right? I take this and I basically bring that in and say, okay, W-2 can't do anything about. Profit share can't do anything about that. Commissions, yes. Investment properties, yes, right? And we go through each one and, hey, listen, this is what you saved me last year. Is there anything new or different that we can do this year? How can we be creative? Obviously, legally, right? And the past 2 years, I haven't paid any federal taxes. And it's through just asking questions, because if I didn't do that and I just did what I always did, was like, my CPA hates me because of all the LLCs and everything. And he was saving me money, but he wasn't saving me as much money as as my tax attorney is doing. So it's going to cost you a few bucks, right? Even if it's just 1 hour for a consultation with your tax attorney, just go to him or her and say, listen, this is what I do. If you have an investment property or properties, this is what I have. Is there anything else that I'm missing here that I could save money on? The tax code is written for the people that understand it and can take advantage of it legally, right?
Chris,
And
I'm sure most people on this call wouldn't know like who to go to. Do you have a tax attorney that you'd like that you could recommend?
it's funny, the people in New York asked me the same thing, and I spoke to him the other day, and he's like, I just can't take anybody else on right now. But what I will tell you is there are tax attorneys in your local area, and I would make sure that they deal with people that own real estate, because when I was vetting out my CPA and vetting out the tax attorney, I made sure that either they own real estate, understood it, or they dealt with people at a high level that were investors or had a real estate portfolio. You can't get a tax attorney that doesn't understand real estate law at all or doesn't understand real estate in general. It just won't work. So that would be the caveat I would tell you. But the one thing I will tell you is do whatever you can to just, whether it's a free consultation or if it's a free consultation, buy 1 hour afterwards to spend what they have a ton of knowledge, especially the ones that litigate real estate law. I can't even tell you how important it is. So that would be definitely one thing that I would do. And make sure, like, when you get the information from your tax attorney, bring it to your CPA and say, hey, listen, what do you think about this? Because that's what I do. As soon as I get it, I say, hey, Rob, what do you think about this? He's like, oh, man, that's good. I wouldn't have thought of that. Well, no crap, you wouldn't have thought of it, because that's why I'm doing the work, right? That's why I'm going the extra mile to talk to someone who actually knows more about the real estate tax laws or tax laws in general than you do. And it's no knock on my CPA. It's just that it's just not what they do. And I think everyone on this call just needs to understand there's a big difference between someone who practices tax law and someone that is a CPA. Does that make sense to everyone? It's worth the investment. Just like if you would get a coach to help mentor you, it's the same thing. The ROI on it, I can't even tell you. It's paid for itself. Like the first hour that I paid for itself. Questions?
Do you have a list of questions that we should ask when
You're so good, David. I absolutely do. And what I'm going to do is I will send those to Al and Elizabeth, and I will, I can tell you're good, David. I mean, just great question. I actually brought that up last week in Queens that I came prepared. Because someone asked me, is there anything you came prepared with when you met with your tax attorney? I'm like, yeah, I came with like questions I knew I was going to ask. It's like when you go into an interview, right? You should know like the type of questions you're going to ask or you're going to get asked. So absolutely, I will send you those questions.
Chris, I don't know if you actually know David. David runs a big coaching program for us, and his classes are probably the most well attended. He's like our, homegrown Tony Robbins, like people
I
just
love
love
it.
to go to his classes. So if you ever need a speaker for the region and to really just blow it out of the water, and he's your guy, you should definitely be reaching out to him. I don't know if he has time to do it, but he's one of the best public speakers and that I've ever seen, sincerely.
That
Wow.
means a lot coming from you, Al. Hey, David, we're planning an agent mastermind in March. I'd love for you to be part of that, and I'll circle back with you and get you details on it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I love it, and
We
I
have
love
guaranteed attendance just from our market centers. If he's there speaking, you'll get our people will come for sure.
I love it, and I love the one thing that you're teaching. I'd love to get the collateral on that and let me know when it is. See if I can attend it.
Yeah. The big why, you mean?
The big why, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yep, absolutely. Deborah, it looks like you have a question.
Yes, and I'm in the car driving, so I'm pulled over on the side of the road, so I'm going to talk fast. In terms of all the information is great. I appreciate it. And in terms of a tax attorney versus, oh boy, here comes a cop.
Don't get
Uh,
arrested on me.
in terms of a tax attorney versus, nope, not for me. An
Chris was a cop, I
accountant,
think he'll get you on.
for an accountant. um, you do your taxes with your CPA, but you just go through some guidance with the tax attorney on what
Yep,
exactly.
I,
I'm not exactly sure what the tax
I
attorney.
got the question. So number one is I go to my tax attorney and I give him this, right? I give him all the stuff I have, right? And then I go through each line item. Where can I get tax savings on, or what can I do to save taxes, right? And I'll write down the ideas that he's given me. I will take that and go to my CPA and say, hey, listen, this this is what my tax attorney, and they know each other now. This is what John gave me. What do you think about it? And we'll go line by line. And if there's any discrepancy, I wanna better understand why I could or could not do it. And then I'll go back to my tax attorney and say, listen, this is what Rob said to me. What do you think about it? Right? It's good collaboration, and also it's a very good learning experience for me. Um,
Yeah, it sounds like it.
yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yes, and then I have another question. In terms
Sure.
of a new investing guidance, because I
Yep.
would like to and I haven't, where would your first, if you were new to this, and I'm a real estate agent, so obviously I know, I can do some of the stuff on my own, but just in terms of guidance to start out, what type of person would be good to talk to about beginning investments, real estate investments?
Well, first of all, I would start inside of your market center and find out who is a successful investor inside your market center and what they're doing. I know
Okay.
I've learned a ton from um, investors that are in my market center through the years on whether it be syndications or short-term or long-term rentals, flipping. The one thing about me is if I don't know it, I'm not going to pretend like I do. I'm just going to find someone that does it at a high level and just be a sponge, ask the right questions, and learn as much as I can.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And there are people in the region that I certainly can help you with and give you some names. I know everyone is more than happy to offer guidance and information on what they do. And certainly, I'm offline. I'm more than happy to give you any insight as well.
And since I'm driving, I don't know if you put your contact information
I
anywhere, but
will. I will.
where can I get it? Because if you put it in the chat and then it goes off, I won't get it.
So we'll be at the end for every one of these sessions, we send out the recording and the accompanying information. So we'll be emailing out the recording and then
Okay.
the questions and any other stuff that Chris gives us to send out, including his
Great.
contact info.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. It says, where
Okay.
do I find a good tax attorney and what do they charge? Number one, all you have to do is Google local tax attorney that does real estate. And it will pop up. And then I'll send them the questions so you guys have them whenever you do. Hopefully most of you go and see a tax attorney. And then what do they charge? It varies anywhere from 250 to 400 per hour. And I mean, I guess if you're in New York City and it's a high level one, they'll charge more, but I wouldn't pay any more than $300 an hour for it, for a good one, if that answers your question. Any other questions, comments, anything?
Well, we can tell you did a great job because you got 5 more questions than the last 3 presenters got. So you're doing good. I knew people would be interested in money.
Here's what I'll tell all of you, and I'll go back from the very beginning and what I said. I treat my wealth like I treat my health. And you have to do certain things in order to achieve your desired goal, whether it be for your health or your wealth. And they both run simultaneously, right? And I don't deviate from it. And I think that as you guys get towards the end of the year and into 2025, I think you just need to be very clear on what your goals are and what you want to achieve. Even if you're not an investor, you can start somewhere, right? And if you're a seasoned investor, like what's next for me? Everyone has a different path. You just have to figure out what that is.
All right. That's great advice. I guess we can end it there. Thank you so much. There's a lot of great feedback in the chat. Everyone's saying that thank you. It's great info. I found it really helpful. So thank you so much. And are you going to be coming to do this, the full class live?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll set it up. I'm more than happy to come in and do the full class. Definitely.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Good to see
All
you
right.
guys.
Have a great day, everyone.